So, welcome, Namaste. We are here to go through some questions being sent in for Satsang. And if you're new to the teachings, you're very, very welcome. You can also check out the link in the description to this video. It will give you a link where you can submit questions that we will go through once a month. And I try to answer as many as I can in the time that we have. And you can send a question in for one of two reasons this way there's a form on the website page. The link in the description will take you to a page on our website where there's a form that you can fill in to submit a question. And people do that for one of two reasons, generally speaking. The first is that perhaps they can't make it live to a satsang to ask me directly due to time zone differences or commitments. And the second is that perhaps you would rather have your question asked anonymously and answered anonymously, and that is totally okay as well. So if you do have a question, check out the link in the description and you can submit that. Please try and keep it as concise as possible. Makes it easier to get through many questions then. We'll see where we go. So we will get started on today's questions. Anish is here to read the questions for me. So whenever you're ready, Anish, we'll start with the first one.
Hi, Helen. First question for you that came in. Dear Helen, I have a 30-year-old daughter with a handicap. I was always a happy, free person, but motherhood completely changed my life, leading to long-term depression. Through treatments, medications, contemplations, I'm feeling better now. The question is, if I reach an awakened state of consciousness, will I feel externally free in my life? Thank you, Helen. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. And your experience kind of mirrors very much the same. After my children were born, in fact, after my third child, I fell into very deep depression. Um, and it was quite a journey to come back out of that. And it sounds like you've been on that journey too, certainly. And you asked about this kind of external sense of freedom as well, freedom in our world. And yeah, as awakening deepens, more and more subtle ways that we're still believing in separation will present themselves to be looked at, um, to see if they're still true or if they've ever been true for us. So this can be even as subtle as the idea that there is an external world separate to me, that I am inside here and there is an external world. And for me, really looking at these more and more subtle beliefs, it took a little while, but as I did that, seeing that they're not true, there was more and more a reflection of freedom. The outside world, so to speak, is a reflection of what's going on inside. So if we're still believing in some sense of limitation, some last remnants of the sense of separation, then the outer world will have to reflect that back to us because it's more of a mirror image than an actual. It doesn't exist independently of us, of the real self. So checking out whether there's any sense of limitation or separation still hanging around. Um, and there are a lot of little beliefs that belong to the mind that really aren't true for us. And just the willingness to see those is going to reflect in a full and rich experience of being awakened in the outer life as well. What does that feel like? Just a sense of peace and ease as we move through the world, and a reflection of abundance in all of the ways. An inner abundance of seeing and wisdom is going to reflect as outer abundance, Of course, we might think of um, finances and we talk about abundance, but it's also going to show up in many ways, abundance of time, energy, vitality, well-being, literally every way that it can show up. So definitely as we move deeper, we'll find ourselves feeling freer and freer. So thank you for your question. Thanks, Anish, when you're ready.
Next question. I was just wondering if you could talk about empaths, specifically being deeply empathetic and highly sensitive. I've experienced this all my life and I don't fully understand it.
Yeah, it's a common thing and it's something that was really a challenge for me when I was still feeling myself to be a separate being. Um, some body minds are more able to feel, read, sense energies than other ones. And I think that we all have a capacity to feel energy. Sometimes there are those that are more sensitive to it. But for me, the key was to recognize that if I'm feeling the energy of someone else, that if I hold that in separation, then I will feel, I'll start to suffer with that. So, am I really feeling someone else's energy? In a way, we could say that we're feeling the energy coming from another body and mind. But if I'm not believing in separation anymore between me and that other being, if I recognize they are me, then that sense of suffering is going to disappear. So there might be times for this body where there's some energy being picked up on and felt, but there isn't any capacity to imagine that it's from someone else. Um, and that's really beneficial if we're going to be around groups of people, our life, the office, work, family, all of that. So it's just felt in the body and it dissipates. And there's no trying to do anything with it, really, or trying to figure out where it came from. It doesn't really matter in that way. And perhaps it can even be a helpful thing to come to know if someone is feeling fearful and our body tells us that we can feel it, then we might find ourselves interacting with them in a different way than we would have done otherwise. So maybe more compassion and love coming into the way that we interact with them. So it's very common, and excuse me, we might just find that as the sense of separation disappears, as our awakening deepens, that we really begin to see it more as a gift rather than a curse or something that's challenging. Always trying to remember that it's the sense of feeling separate to someone else that's making us suffer, not the emotion itself or the energy itself that we're feeling from someone else. So I hope that helps. It really was a lifesaver for me because it's just went through quite a challenging time when I was really feeling that I was picking up the energy of a lot of other beings. There was a lot of separation in that, and it really was not pleasant. Thanks, Anish, when you're ready.
Next question. Helen, I've heard you talk about your experience of unity and formless love. I wonder, or rather, my mind wonders, how to open myself up and allow that love into me. At least that's the intention. You are beautiful, and I love seeing myself in you. Because the first thing we learn about form is what the other unconsciously shows me that I don't want to see or don't like.
Thank you for your beautiful words and your question. Sending lots of love to you. And for me, allowing myself to kind of feel that love that comes from who we really are. It really came down to a willingness to admit that nothing about me at all needed to change before I was worthy of that love or ready for that love. And that it couldn't be as my mind thought, unsafe, or harmful in some way to allow that love to be there, to come in. So, what are the things that you think you need to do or change before that love can be allowed in? For me, there is always some idea that I need to be worthy of it or ready of it. And that any kind of allowing of this love was going to somehow make me not able to function in my life. And, when my children were small, there was a sense that it wasn't a good idea or even safe to let this love in because I would just sit there in bliss the whole time and not really be able to do anything. So just to examine these reasons and see, can they really be true for us? The reasons that we're unconsciously holding this love away, are they really true? Do we need even to be worthy of it? I mean, of course, we are worthy of it. But does that love itself look at us as an improvement project, something that needs to be fixed, repaired, or made whole? Or does that love already see us as whole and complete? That's what became clear to me. That this love that I am, that everything is, it doesn't really even see any imperfection in me or in you or in any of us. It sees only itself, its own perfection everywhere it looks. And, maybe our um, our mind will never feel ready to receive this love. There'll always be a good reason why we shouldn't. And finally, something within me was unwilling to postpone it anymore. And some kind of inner barrier just came down and I began to come rushing in. It was one of the most beautiful experiences. So just checking out these ideas that you might have that there's something you need to change about yourself before you're able or ready to allow this love to come in. Who you really are does not care about any perceived imperfections you might think about yourself. How you see yourself is not at all how this love sees itself, and not at all how this love sees you. He doesn't see a separate self that needs to be dissolved even. It just sees its own self appearing as your body and mind. So leaving no stone unturned, what are the ideas, the reasons that your mind says you shouldn't and can't let this in right now? And in a way, for me, it was like having children, in that I realized that my mind would probably never feel ready for that. There would always be a good reason why I should wait and plan more and all of that kind of stuff. And here, our mind might have some good reasons about letting this love in, but none of them are true. And if we remember that you are this love already, you're only going to consciously allow yourself to feel it instead of unconsciously resisting it. Nothing is really changing there, right? If we imagine a room and there's some curtains closed in, and the room inside is dark, outside the window there's brilliant sunshine. And we think that we're standing inside the room and we have to open the curtains. Am I ready? Is it safe? Is it a good idea? But actually, we are the sunshine, the light, just waiting to pour through into the body mind, which is the room in this analogy. So you are the love that you're trying to allow in. It's not, I've got to let it come into me. There's some kind of relaxation when you realize this is already what you are. We're just going to let it consciously um, embody itself through the body and mind. So you're more than ready. You are that already. Hope that that helps. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. My awakening seems to have solidified, and I remain in this timeless space. However, as an energetic medium with a sensitive body, I notice astral entities or larvae attaching to my physical body when thoughts of attack or old trauma arise in certain environments. This attachment brings back the feeling of being someone and leads to days of suffering and physical discomfort. I'm asking you, Helen, how to use these psychic attacks to uncover the underlying beliefs that generate them. And if my approach is correct, I'm drawn to contemplating who still believes they can be attacked, rather than using aura protection techniques. I note that this is very difficult to maintain contemplation when lower astral entities are attached to my solar plexus.
Thank you. Um, so, having experienced similar things myself, one of the main challenges I had was to begin to see that those beings or subtle forms are not separate to me. So, as with many things in awakening, it's not what's actually happening to us, but the idea that those things are separate to us, that is actually lowering the life force. So, if we imagine that, or if we can see that our inner world, our thoughts and feelings, is reflected as what happens in our outer world is a reflection of what's going on in our inner world. And when our life force is high and we're feeling good and everything is going great, then there's a lot of life force there, and our outer world experience, even on the subtle planes, the physical plane as well, of course, has to reflect what is going on inside. So in the subtle worlds of energies, thoughts, emotions, sensations, all of that. And when the energy drops in the body, we begin to feel bad or scared or contracted, then our outer worldly experience, and again on the subtle planes, is going to reflect that too. So, what is the way that we drop our life force or allow it to be dropped more than anything? Is when we believe in a sense of separation. And of course, at first we would believe that we are separate to these subtle forms. And even the sense of being attached, having something attached to you, is only possible if they are inseparate, if they actually were separate. There's got to be two things for an attachment to occur. And of course, it seems like there's two things. But actually, if we look at our mind's strategy for trying to defend ourselves against this kind of thing, its strategy is to push against, to push away, to resist, and to think about um, what's going on. But that only emphasizes the sense of separation. So for me, if I recognize I am completely the infinite formless self, I have to admit, and I didn't want to, but I had to finally admit that these beings are also me. And the same as the higher realms, some very, very loving beings are also me, and some not so loving beings. But inside and outside are one. So if I'm being very loving and joyful on the inside, I'm only going to be approached by beings on the physical plane and the subtle planes who are resonating that same frequency. In manifestation, it is like attracts like. So if I have thoughts of otherness and separation about these lower entities, astral entities, we could call them, it is that sense of separation from them that dips my life force so that they can feel a vibrational resonance. Normally, I'm here, you're here, and then we start to think about them, or we notice one, we're sensitive to it, and as we notice it, immediately some fear might come or a sense of separation from it. And that might be a deeply unconscious thought. But still, we are perceiving some separation. The life force dips then, so that we're vibrating at the same level. So I did some self-inquiry around this, and I had to really ask myself what they really are. And are they really separate to me? And I stayed with this question because I'd begun to realize that it was a sense of separation from anything, whether it's a physical being walking past me in the grocery store or one of these entities, let's say, that I'm suffering from. It's never the thing itself. Same with any emotion. It's my sense of separation from fear, if I feel it, that causes me to suffer. The sense of pushing away my thoughts rather than the thoughts themselves. The sense of there's me and thoughts, this who-ness of that. So, as much as your mind will say it's a bad idea to question if you're really separate to them, we can actually look at that and say, is that true? Because not questioning and believing that we're separate to them hasn't worked, hasn't helped, and might actually be the root of the issue. As to using aura protection and things like that, I would suggest you just keep doing what you're doing with that whilst you're also inquiring. And I used to do things like that as well. These days, nothing like that can find its way near my energy. And it's quite the opposite now that higher beings tend to come and say hello, and that's beautiful. And there's no aversion to those lower ones because there's no sense of separation left from them. In fact, if they do or could come, they would be immediately transmuted into some higher frequency. But that's the final thing is that you are so powerful when you realize who you are that you will begin to affect them rather than them affecting you. And that's a very different situation. You begin to have a positive effect over them, changing their frequency. No darkness can stand in the face of the light that you are, so to speak. And just checking any thoughts you might have about them being bad or wrong or something like that. If we just kind of hold it from a vibrational perspective, just simply higher or lower, not better and worse, just higher or lower. 'Cause beings on some realms vibrate higher, some on other realms lower. Here in the physical plane, we're kind of in the middle of that, and somewhere in the middle of that range. But even here on the physical plane, there's some body minds vibrating much higher and some much lower. So your own inner state of consciousness is your protection, and that the way to have always a higher vibration is to remove any sense of separation from them. Paradoxically, when you know you are them, they can't come near you. It is a paradox, isn't it? But that's how it is. It's a paradox to the mind. Yeah. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. When I observe the world, I can detach my attention from that visual perception and focus it on what I see through my eyes without ceasing to see the objects. The effect of this shift in perception is a relaxation of the body and a decrease in thoughts. Then I understand that there is no I that looks, but rather a consciousness that attends. Do I understand that this meditation relates to what I just described? Is that consciousness what you call contextual space? What I am? Thank you.
Yeah, so our traditional perspective of looking at the world is that a sense that I am sitting here looking at something else over here, in a sense that I am only in one place and everything else is else other separate to me. But as you described, if you simply keep your focus, your eyes on a particular object, what tends to happen is um, you can also notice the space around the object as well. That also works. But if you're just looking at something, then the tendency to think about what you're looking at starts to fall away. And there's just a looking, isn't there? There's just something watching, seeing, something seeing through the eyes. Now I'm seeing what what information is coming in through my eyes. And now I'm seeing that there's no information coming in through my eyes. But I am seeing either way. I either see the visual field or the absence of the visual field. And you get more to know that seeingness, consciousness, or contextual field space, as we're calling it here. It becomes clear that that consciousness is not inside only, looking at an outside, the rest of everything. It becomes clearer that there isn't really a divide between the seeing and what it sees. That actually the seeingness, the consciousness is everywhere. And it's appearing in its kind of unmanifest state as the seeing. If I look at what's seeing, that my eyelids are closed, it doesn't have any form, doesn't have any shape. It's unmanifested. And then I look at what I see and it's manifested. It has shape and form, and there's a sense of multiplicity. So this subject, excuse me, the subject-object divide begins to fall away. And there's less and less of a sense of consciousness and what I'm conscious of, and more recognition that consciousness is just the only thing that's here, sometimes appearing as a form and sometimes formless. And yeah, that is what you are. It's what everything is, actually. And it's really quite beautiful, isn't it, to begin to recognize that. There's no thing that is different to the consciousness that you are. So noticing that when the body is giving us that sense of relaxation, it's usually because we've dropped any thought about what we're seeing. And then the unity of what is seeing and what is seen just becomes very, very obvious. There's just a sense of being here everywhere. And everything that we thought was an object is really just another way that you're appearing. So well done on beginning to recognize this and just being curious about this and deepening more and more each day and seeing it again and again. Thanks, Anish.
Next question. Is there something that believes a thought? What is it that believes a thought? Or is that just another thought?
Such a good question. So, if I look for a believer of thoughts, I don't find any entity or separate self that could believe a thought. You can check that out now, right? If you see a thought pop up in your awareness and you notice that thought, see if you can find someone who's believing it. Or when there's a strong sense of separation in the body-mind, contraction, and it feels really restricted and limiting. There's a sense of separation, but what is believing in that separation? Is there someone believing in separation? Is there any entity at all that actually identified with the body and mind? Or, as you said, is that just another thought? A thought says, I am the believer. of thoughts. Or a thought says, there is a believer of thoughts. Another thought said, I identified with the body and mind, and now I have to stop identifying. Is that really true? Does it, if it's just a thought saying that, does it affect you? And for me, this was such a game changer to see, because if I am the believer of thoughts, then I have to undo every thought I've ever believed. But if I can see that the believer of thoughts is just a thought, it's just another thought floating by in your awareness, isn't it? In the awareness. And as awareness, as formless consciousness, can you believe a thought? If you are completely insubstantial, more like the air in this room than an actual object, pure spacious consciousness, before form, can you believe any thoughts? Is that a faculty that you have, even? So you begin to suspect this, right? You can see this might just be a thought. I'm believing my mind. It's just another thought in the mind, isn't it? I'm pushing away thoughts. I'm believing in separation. All just thoughts. Meanwhile, you, consciousness, awareness, presence, remain as you always were. And what's happening in this awakening journey then? What's changing? Well, really only that the content of the mind, the stream of thoughts, is changing. From thoughts about separation, lots of thoughts about other beings and other things, to, excuse me, to lots of thoughts about being free already, and that there is no believer of thoughts becomes very apparent. Every time we think we're believing, or every time we think we've got lost in illusion again, before we go trying to pull ourselves out of it, we can check this out that you've said here. Is there anyone doing this actually? Is there a believer of thoughts? I still love to check and see and not find a believer. It still feels so good to confirm how free we already are. So have fun with that and enjoy it. Thanks, Anish.
Next question is simply, what is causing the doing?
So nothing is causing the doing. Seems strange, doesn't it, that there could be all this world, all this manifestation, all these forms, and nothing is actually causing that. Not even the formless awareness isn't really causing manifestation. It doesn't exist manifestation independently of the formless awareness that it seems to arise from, just like the wave on the ocean surface doesn't exist independent of the ocean itself. So, how is anything getting done or changing then? Well, we could say that when a form seems to arise in that awareness, there is already within that form the unfoldingness of its entire existence is already kind of laid out in that. So, in the sperm and the egg, for example, there's already the complete lifetime um, laid out for that form. And even if you look at something like desire, there's still going to be already within that desire is the energy for it to burst forth into physical manifestation all by itself. And the spiritual practice, even that we're doing, It's just happening spontaneously by itself. It may feel like we're choosing. Did you feel like you chose to watch this video now? Maybe you have to hit the pause button because someone comes to the door, knocks on the door. You feel like you push the button to pause or hit the screen. But is that really what's happening? What if the hand was always going to reach to the screen and there's just a thought in the head that says, I did that, or I'm going to pause it? Very subtle sense. So within each form already is everything it needs to fulfill its entire destiny, whether that form is a human being trying to reach awakening or trying to become an astronaut and go into space, or a simple atom. Everything that the atom is ever going to do is already inherent within it. And this is because of the infinite power that is within every form. Every form is the formless awareness in disguise, hasn't lost anything in that manifestation process. There's no diminishment of power. So if you can see that that is that the universe is causeless and that all actions are causeless, and there could be no doer in that, no decider of decisions, no thinker of thoughts. At first, that's quite alarming for the mind. Like, how is any of this making any sense then in the manifested world? But really, we can see that because there is no doer, there's no one to do it right or do it wrong. And that the intelligence of who we really are, the formless awareness, is just these forms are seemingly arising out of it, but they're not different to it. They have the same inherent intelligence and power of what we really are. And they're on their own trajectory from the moment they're first created till the moment of their dissolution. It's quite interesting, isn't it, to think of life that way? A spiritual practice, even, nobody doing that either. Awakening, that means that awakening is destined. Nobody can get in the way of that. There's no doer to do the wrong practice or not do enough practice. That is just kind of simply the unfolding of the manifestation of your body mind as it moves through the world. It's quite shocking, but also really freeing. Nothing is causing anything. You're just sitting with that for a moment of feeling the openness in that. Whatever is destined to happen will happen. Meaning our awakening cannot fail. I hope that helps you relax, and I love the directness of your question. Thank you, Anish.
Next question. My mind wonders if life is a great paradox where one thinks one is living something that doesn't exist. So, what is the point of experiencing something that didn't happen? Or it also wonders if, for consciousness, if nothing is real, we could just do anything. Conversely, do nothing if nothing exists.
So, when we have this kind of question, I had this kind of question for the longest time, and it kind of came to a point where I realized there must be some deep seeing that needed to happen. My awakening at this point still felt really incomplete, I guess, when I was asking this kind of question. So I went back to look at this. If no thing is real, if this universe is not at all what it looks like, if manifestation itself doesn't exist as a separate reality, if there isn't really an outside world out there, separate to me in here. What is the point of any of this then, as you said? Are we doomed to just kind of go through a lifetime of empty experiences that will all just be erased when the body dies? Or is there a deeper way to kind of perceive this? And as we get clearer in our understanding, it'll become clearer that if no thing is real in and of itself, no object, no form is real, meaning it doesn't have an independent existence separate to the formless infinite self that it seems to arise from, then that form is not really a form. It isn't actually anything different than that formless infinite self. So life moves from a sense of being a separate self to a separate self that's trying to experience so many things, to move around in its world and somehow reach fulfillment on the inside, to a kind of recognition that fulfillment is what we are, and any experience that we could have is just ourselves encountering ourselves disguised as another form. So instead of I'm going out with my friends and we're gonna go watch a movie, and I'm uplifted if the movie is good. I'm kind of deflated if the movie isn't good. And I've just wasted my money on something that wasn't so good. At least I got to see my friends, but then some of them were arguing and, on and on it goes. There's a kind of different way of experiencing. Here I am showing up as this body, my friends, the movie, even the sense of it not being so good is kind of another very subtle, delicious way that I am showing up as all of these forms. Like I'm playing hide and seek with myself then. I find myself everywhere. I was looking for myself and I realized I was everywhere, hiding everywhere. There's a different quality of experience then. This isn't another being or another thing. The thing that I want or need to get in my experience, such as more energy, more time, more money, the thing I need to get rid of, something like fear or shame, are seen to be exactly myself, same self, showing up in disguise. And from there's a sense of awe and wonder and joy about all these different subtle ways that we can show up. And life is lived on a much fuller and richer and more intimate way of existing. There's a fullness. When you see fullness within yourself, you see that fullness everywhere. Instead of this being an empty, hollow world that doesn't exist, you actually see, you begin to find Christ and Krishna and the Buddha literally everywhere. Every person you talk to, every leaf on every tree, every seemingly mundane object. The rubbish bin, the table, the chair that you're sitting on as you listen to this, watch this, the device you're using to watch this. It's all divinity in disguise. Smallest subatomic particle to the whole universe is your form, then, the whole universe. So just suggest, and I can feel that curiosity from your question. It doesn't feel like a pessimistic question, although the words may sound a little pessimistic when we ask, what is the point to this then? If none of this is real, it's not real as an independent existence separate to the formlessness, the form. But it is real because it's the formlessness in disguise. That brings a whole depth of dimension to living our life as a human being, consciously awake to what we are and what everything and everyone else is too. So embracing that curiosity and just going a little deeper. If manifestation isn't what I think it is, then what actually is it? What is the highest way to perceive manifestation? How do I fall in love with it? Hope that helps. Thanks, Inish.
Next question. Dear Helen, thank you so much for your clear, loving, and supporting teachings. My question is, everything is going well in this body mind. There is only one subject that is still triggering me, like with your finances, as you mentioned in another satsang. With me, that is my addiction to alcohol. And I can see the shame, the guilt, the pain in the body caused by alcohol, the money it costs. Um, Even the lie that life is easier or more fun with some wine. But still, there is that trigger, that hunger. What questions can I ask to reveal the last hook that is in this addiction that I seem to not see? Could you please shine your light on this? Thank you.
Thank you for your honesty. And of course, first of all, I would always recommend, seeking help from an organization that can help with an addiction. But to add to that from a non-dual perspective, my own struggles with alcohol were for many, many years, and two things had to really fundamentally change before it kind of left my life completely. And the first is that I had to begin to look at what I was getting out of it. So, what I mean by that is, what does it give me? When I have some alcohol, what does it give me? What does it do? For me, it was a temporary change of state, a temporary feeling better. Well, not even feeling better, but sometimes just feeling numb, not feeling the pain that was going on emotionally. And I had to really check out that, was that actually working? If I was having alcohol to compensate for some negative emotion, something I didn't want to look at, was it really giving me that? So there was this okay, I'm gonna have this drink because it's gonna make me feel better, but when I looked at it, did it actually do that? And actually, as you've pointed to here, it didn't. It made me feel worse, in fact, emotionally, physically, everything. So just to see that without judging, just to see that the reason I'm doing this thing, and it could be anything from having sex to eating loads of sugar to spending too much money, alcohol, drugs, anything, right? It could be anything. Even watching a billion satsangs, we could be kind of doing that to get something from it. Is it really actually working? Does it make you feel better? So if you ask yourself non-judgmentally, why am I doing this? Why do I drink? Without judgment. See what the reasons are. Okay, because for me that the answers were makes me feel better, helps me avoid something that I don't want to look at. I didn't like that answer, of course, because I thought I was waking up to the truth. But when I looked at those two answers, and there were more, but they weren't actually true, meaning it didn't make me feel better, didn't help me avoid anything. The emotions were still there. So just to see that the reason we think we're doing something, or the mind's reasons, aren't actually true, right? We start to break that cycle of why I think I'm doing something. It's going to get me this, and to see that that isn't actually working. For me, one of my also other challenges was overeating for a long time. if I go to the fridge and get something out of the fridge and eat it, the promise was from the mind that it's going to make me feel better, but it didn't. It was just a momentary sensation, taste as it was eaten. But even while it was being eaten, there is the guilt already coming of why have I done this again? So it didn't even make me feel better. And there's something astonishing changed within me when I realized they don't actually make me feel better. Same with sugar. I also had a little habit on eBay, let's say, that didn't make me feel better either. None of it did. And then there's a realization that actually what I'm really looking for is an ability to feel a certain way. The alcohol, the sugar, the shopping is a way that I'm looking. I think that I'll get that. But if what I'm really looking for is to feel better inside, what's the cheapest, fastest, healthiest, easiest way for that to occur? So we're not pushing away an addiction we have, we're not judging it. We're just, okay, it'd be nice if it was gone. I'd really like it to be gone, but I'm not going to judge myself for it. That's the second thing. It will stop when it stops. And for most of us, that's when we've unpicked the reasons why we're doing it and we've stopped judging ourselves. For me, that was the biggest step. If I have an addiction, I can either hold that as a loving, compassionate way my body, the only way my body has known how to cope with some very challenging emotions and things, that I'm sure we all have. And that, yes, we'd like it to cope a different way. And it will do that as soon as it can. And usually that's as soon as we stop judging ourselves. And for me, that was a really pivotal step. And we can embrace the desire for it to be different without judging the fact that it's still happening. So I'm just going to say that again because it was such a fundamental shift for me. I can embrace the fact that I would like this to be gone. And I can also not judge myself the fact that my body is still doing it. After I'd really kind of seen these two things, my body kind of moved from being addicted to alcohol to meditation instead. I was doing lots and lots and lots of meditation. I immediately started to blame myself for doing too much meditation and avoiding what I needed to do in the world until I realized, that's a healthier addiction, isn't it, than using any substance, maybe. Maybe if I don't blame myself for this, there'll be an even healthier addiction. Found myself watching a million satsangs. Our body is always trying to get what it needs. Our mind is always trying to get what it needs. And it's just moving from slightly less healthy ways to more and more healthy ways. So, can you recognize that the reason that you're doing this is not working? And can you stop judging yourself for it? Only love and compassionate self-love is going to heal this. Judgment doesn't work, does it? If that was going to work, to judge yourself, to stop this from happening, it would have worked already. So try the love instead. I'm doing the best I can. And that's the truth, isn't it? Thanks, Anish. We will make this the last question for today.
Last question for today, Helen. I am a 34-year-old in Seattle, currently facing major difficulties. I'm financially broke, unemployed for a long time, and profoundly lonely. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting and applying for an MBA. Despite my attempts at celibacy, I'm constantly struggling with sexual thoughts and feelings, having never been in a relationship or experienced intimacy. Spiritually, I find it difficult to observe or detach from my thoughts. I have been meditating and listening to the masters, but I haven't found real peace or security. And I'm unable to surrender to the present moment of life because I'm unhappy with my current circumstances and unfulfilled desires. I need guidance on finding a life partner, managing sensual thoughts, and progressing in my spiritual journey.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for your honesty. First, I probably want to look at this from several angles, and the first thing is that what we want in the outside world, for example, to find the right partner, the right career, for me in my own journey, that was never really complete until um, awakening has started to deepen inside. So my outer world is going to be a reflection of what's going on inside. And what's going on inside, if we're rejecting ourselves, judging ourselves, blaming ourselves, then our outside world has to reflect that back also as being incomplete, unfulfilling. We might even find that we are drawing people to us that are also judging and blaming us for things. And peace is never going to come from anything other than being okay with how this moment is. So you said that you can't surrender to this now moment. I'd like to say something that might be a little shocking, but that is, you are this now moment. You're not someone who has to surrender to it. So, surrendering to this now moment or being okay with what is, what does that actually mean? It means accepting this moment as it is right now. So, for you, there's a body appearing in this moment. There's lots of thoughts. There's maybe lots of sexual energy. There may be desires, judgments, thoughts of judgment of yourself, memories, everything, right? So, whatever is here in this moment, right now, as you're listening to this, watching this, can you just notice that is what's here? There's desires, there's negative emotions, there's judgmental thoughts, there's sexual energy, there's, a car passing by outside, there's all the objects in the room I'm sitting in. Just noticing. So, we're not saying liking or wanting. We're just noticing this is what is right now. This is what's shown up. Right now, my experiences of these negative emotions, this energy, this desire, this judgment, all of it. Just noticing. And included in what's showing up is a desire for this moment to be different. That's also another appearance arising in this moment. So we're accepting the moment how it is, and as part of that, there's also a desire for this to be different. So as we accept the desire also, we're not rejecting anything. There's sexual desires, there's judgment, there's emotions, there's some pain, there's energy, there's desire for a partner, there's desire for ability to be celibate, there's or whatever the desires are, right? And also a desire here that this moment be completely different than it is. So you just kind of being conscious to all the ways that this moment is appearing. Just acceptance of that. Not liking or wanting it to stay. Just acceptance. This is how this moment has already manifested for me. So to fight, reject, or judge how it's showing up already is like getting a pie out of the oven, an apple pie. And You put it, you let it cool down, you take a slice, and you go, I don't like apple pie. I wanted peach. There's nothing you can do to the apple pie that's already baked to make it into a peach pie, right? You can't. You can only say, I have to accept that this is apple pie. Next time I would like peach, please. Pushing against the apple pie is not going to turn it into peach. There's nothing you can do to it to make it different than it is. So, can you feel the different way of being with what is here than perhaps what we have thought being with what is is? For me, there were moments where surrendering to this moment was more like I'm angry, I'm desperate, I'm frustrated, I'm scared, I'm lonely, and I don't have enough money, and I can't seem to find the right work to do. That doesn't seem like what the masters mean when they say allow this moment to be as it is, because usually they're feeling peace and bliss and all those wonderful things. But the peace and bliss, they come from accepting this moment exactly as it is right now. There's nothing I can do to this pie to change it. It's already baked, done, manifested. And what else comes out the oven is this desire, fully baked desire for peach pie, right? What most people do is they exclude from this moment the desire for it to be different. And that's just as valid a manifestation as the physical body, the device you're using to wash this on, the emotions, everything. So being with what is, accepting what is, and also knowing how you want it to change. Pushing against what is never going to change it into what you want it to be. Accepting what is will allow it to unfold naturally into what you want it to be. So I hope that that helps. For me, I had to really understand like this what the sages meant, what the masters meant when they said surrendering to this moment, or being with what is, or resting as the self. It's also acknowledging that there are ways I would like this to be different. So it's a kind of a subtle stance of this is what I'm acknowledging, this is what's already here, and it's pointless to try to change what's already here. And also, this is how I would like it to be different in the next moment. So I really hope that that helps. Of course, if you need some more help, please just write back in and we'll see where we've got to. So thank you so much, everyone, for sending in your questions. We'll be back next month with more questions and answers. And just a quick reminder that if you do have a question to send in, that you can use the link in the description underneath this video on YouTube to do that. Thank you so much, and sending so much love and blessings to everyone. Thank you. Thank you.